friend. Have you read all the books, blogs, podcasts, Instagram posts, etc.? You think you know how to be a good mom, but you feel like you're hopelessly flawed and can't do all those things? Do you feel like you're drowning in motherhood and at best you can tread water sometimes, but you're just not getting anywhere? You're still stuck in all the same ruts. Your kids are out of control, your house is a mess, and you can't find any motivation to change any of it? You just feel terrible all the time, stressed out, burned out, and over it? Well, I have great news for you. You have come to the right place. I've got you. I'm Emily Wardrop from Drop the Word Life Coaching. I'm an advanced certified life coach, and I want to let you in on one little simple secret that can change everything for you. You want to know how to be a good mom? I'm going to tell you the secret. Are you still listening? The secret is you already are. Join me on this journey to believe you are a good mom. Here we go. Hello, it's Emily Wardrop again. Welcome back to Believe You Are a Good Mom. And guess what? I have my first male guest today. I have another one coming up soon too. Spoiler alert. But
nice.
Caleb is so fun because he is a life coach, as most of my guests are. And he's male and he's younger than a lot of the life coaches. So that's fun. I feel like I'm younger because my kids are younger, but I'm not actually younger. But I like my young kids keep me young.
As long as you feel young, that's what
That's
matters.
right. Actually, I feel old, but I feel like I've talked to peers and then they're like, yeah, I'm a grandma. I'm like, well, what? Like their grandkids are my kids' age. And I thought we were the same age. So anyway, it's all what ifs. So Caleb coaches college students, young adults, stuff like that. But
All
what's
of
fun,
that.
not but, and what's fun about Caleb is I will let him talk eventually a little bit. But I'm going to tell you all my thoughts about Caleb first. In fact, hold on, let me start over. The very first time I heard of Caleb, he was on Jody Moore's podcast, Better Than Happy.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't tapped in, where have you been? Go check it out. And I think that was the first time I heard from you. And then he and I are both in Jody Moore's business coaching group. And so I saw him get coached in there. Maybe I saw you get coached in there first and then heard you on the podcast. And so I knew who you were. I was like, oh, I've seen him be coached. And then he sat by me on an airplane on the way home. I sat by, I don't know. We were assigned seats, right? Who knows who was there first? On the way home from the Life Coach School Mastermind in Austin last April. Was it in April? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, whoa, I'm totally sitting by this celeb. If you've been on the Better Than Happy podcast, you're a total celebrity. I was like, whoa, I know who you are. This is cool. Except we had to like have masks on and stuff. So I didn't even know what you look like, but because it only hurt. Oh, I guess anyway. Okay. So that's when Caleb and I became friends, was on the airplane. He coached me into going back home to the fam after having a mommycation. You always need a little coaching before you get home.
Yeah.
All the things. Okay. I feel like there was another random personal thing I was going to say about Caleb, but I can't remember now. So let's get into it. In fact, let me let you talk for a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead and introduce
Yeah, sounds good.
There's
Thanks for the wonderful
intro.
No, I really appreciate that intro because I like it when they're personal. Because I mean, I like how people think I was a celebrity just because they were like, oh, he's like a guy and he's like 25, which is like, in terms of the life coaching world and also in the world of parents, is very, very much a minority considering I'm not a parent and any of that. But I'm very passionate about not just parenting, but just coaching and all sorts of things. So I got involved in all of this thanks to my mom. She's a wonderful life coach. Her name is April Price, and she's kind of the one who introduced me to this world when I came home from serving an LDS mission, and she had her life basically changed from it. And I was like, oh, that's really awesome. And I'll talk about that later. But for me in my journey, I was kind of just like, cool, mom, I'm going to go live my life now. and then I've just, dealt with anxiety, dealt with emotions and stuff, finally reached this breaking point where I was like, okay, life coach is needed. And my world was changed forever that day. And so I just decided I wanted to be the guy to, first off, stand out and be the kind of person that's like, oh yeah, life coaching's for everybody. Like it's
Mhm.
for college people, it's for people that are young adults, for people just starting out of life. Like there's no stage that you're exempt from, needing help with what's going on in your mind, what's going on with your heart, and also just like wanting to love your life. Like it's totally natural, normal to be kind of get stuck in these ruts or just like realize that there's more out there. So that's why I decided to be a life coach, be this resource. And so, yes, we met on the plane that wonderful day. I loved that meeting. It was a lot of fun because you were just super excited. And like, it was cool for me because I was like, oh, I can like kind of be a coach. And like I've never done this like with real people. Well, I have obviously since I got certified, but it was just really cool and
Yeah.
cool to meet like-minded people.
Yeah, for sure. Way fun. Okay, so let's talk more about your mom being a coach because this is where I want to go with our fun chat today. Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, I coach moms of young kids. And like you just said, everyone at every stage needs to be coached. When you said that, I was thinking, yeah, I coach my little kids all the time.
Yeah.
And not in like, so because often I hear coaches tell parents, like, use the tools on yourself and model it, and then that will help them, because as soon as we find this work, we're like, how do I teach my kids? And like, because we just want our kids to behave, or how do I teach my husband? How do I teach my friends? Like, everybody needs to know this because we want them to behave. Like, we want to help
Yeah.
our kids behave so that we can feel better. And that's usually actually why we want to teach our kids. But legitly, like, the tools that we've learned as life coaches is like managing emotions and knowing where our emotions even come from, and that is helpful for a child no matter how old they are. And so I do coach my kids. And one of the first rules we learn when we're certified as a life coach is to not coach people against their will. And so I kind of break that rule sometimes, but I call it parenting. you know and so
Yeah.
there is like emotion coaching is like a thing they teach in like parenting circles, and but just to really like help people understand how to process their emotions. I was just talking to a teen coach the other day, and so yeah, I was coached pretty much. She was coaching me on the interview. And you'll probably start doing that too.
No.
So anyway, she was just talking about how once they're teens, like if they haven't learned how to regulate their emotions, then they just go to the coping mechanisms, because that's what we do as parents of kids too. We're like, oh, you're sad, here's some ice cream. And so of course, why do we think that we go to ice cream when we're sad? Because we always have, right? Or like, stop crying, and like hold it. They learn how to hold it in because it's bugging their mom. I'm like 100% guilty of this. I'm like, I literally just did it when I hit pause. I'm like, stop pitching a fit. I'm doing an interview right now. It's like, go stuff your emotions so that you're not bugging me. Like, that's what we do. And that's what we teach them. And so then they have no idea how to handle their emotions. And so they turn to like, social media for that dopamine hit, or food or drugs or whatever they got to do to
Mhm.
deal with the anxiety and all the feelings. So literally, the earlier we can teach our kids these tools, the better, is all I'm saying in that long-winded blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
So what were we talking about? That your mom's a coach. Let's talk more about that.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of going along what you said, like, I mean, I think that's every child kind of goes through that kind of experience because I think, I mean, just looking now, being older, is that it's easy for a parent to not want to face the discomfort of like, the explaining either the truth to a child or like dealing with a situation that is also uncomfortable when it comes to them interrupting or them wanting something, because children are learning. And so in that learning experience, it's also an opportunity for the parent to recognize, oh, I also have emotions. And so maybe I need to manage these things, or recognize that it's okay when they go up and down. And I think my mom is a great example of someone who fantastic, amazing, like one of the best moms out there. Yet I could tell early on, or just we could tell as children, that like she was really hard on herself, like just really hard on not thinking she was doing enough, even though she did a lot, like a lot, a lot. And I think it's something we're either raised in our culture or church, or just like as parents, you're raised to, you have to do a lot to be a good parent. and it just affected her. And because in terms of just, and we could just feel it or tell, or that's just the way it was presented to us, because she'd either lash out and she would be angry, she would cry, or there'd be those moments where like one of us didn't do something we were supposed to do, and the reaction was unpleasant. And that's normal in parenting and whatnot. And that's not to say anyone's a bad parent for doing those things, because you're not. But it was just, I couldn't tell this kind of difference until after life coaching happened, and there was this shift. There's a shift in my mom where she was able to be herself still. She's still an amazing parent, always looking out for us, always doing a lot, maybe actually even less now, but she felt better about herself. That's what I always just keep stressing, is that like being able to recognize that there are certain thoughts or paradigms that we're running our life on, running our parenting, these beliefs that we feel like, oh, this is the thing we have to do, or this is the way things are, or this is how we have to be a good parent, something like that, that is so noble, yet, and we think we're trying to strive for something, which is in fact hurting ourselves. When she was able to let go of all that, recognize that she was exactly the person she was supposed to be, because she held herself with a lot of guilt thinking she wasn't a good mom, just because of, she would maybe yell and she's like, well, not supposed to do that. Or she would, maybe there's certain consequences, or she felt like she failed us because we would make terrible choices. And then she'd be like, that would be like the past version of herself, whereas now she's just so much more light, so much freer. And because of that, she became a quote unquote better mom. And I put quotes around that because you can't be better, but we all saw that her being a parent was so much, I guess, more full and enjoyable, as well as we were able to just want to be a part of this family, and also recognize that we also had responsibility in this a lot more, when she was able to see and had this basically shift in herself. And so I credit everything, not to say that no one's family is perfect by any means, and not to say my family was bad by any means at all. It was a wonderful experience, and it still is. It's just transformed immensely. And it's so hard to describe how it transformed. It's just hard to explain, but like, and so that's why I look forward to parents like you guys listening, and for you, Emily, like seeing what it'll be like to, as a parent, just from the very beginning, having these, kind of skills of managing emotions, looking at your thoughts, all of these things.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I love so many things you talked about. So like that lightness, it just felt like she was lighter, like not so heavy.
Yeah.
Right. Because we put so much pressure on ourselves. We're like so bogged down. And then imagine having to like change diapers and do dishes and clean up the house when you're so heavy. Like, and we literally put on the pounds too. Like we're literally heavy because we're so bogged down by all this pressure that we put on ourselves unnecessarily. Like it's optional. And it's exactly everything you were just talking about. So she felt like she had to do a lot to be good. And I literally just recorded a podcast this morning about this, like the do versus the be. Like I really, really, really want to believe, and I want everyone to believe, that we are a good mom. Like it's who we are. It has nothing to do with what we do or don't do. You don't have to do a lot to prove to yourself that you are a good mom. You don't have to stop yelling to prove to yourself that you are a good mom. You just are inherently as who you are. And then my big rant and rave on the podcast this morning was like using the model where like being is the result. Like the result, like it's who you are, but you've always been that. So it is your inherent result that you came to earth with. And then we forgot that. So we have all our mortal thoughts and feelings and actions, but all those thoughts and feelings and actions are not who we are. They're just our thoughts and feelings and actions. It's like, that's something else. Anyway, so she couldn't do enough to prove it to herself. She had to work on that relationship with herself. And you said when she felt better about herself, then she was a quote unquote better mom. And so it's just a jiggy game we have to play in our head that like when we believe that we are, then we actually become who we've always been, but we weren't living into that because we were so bogged down with beating ourselves up.
Right, because we're telling ourselves a story of who we should be, or who we think we are, but we're not really.
Mm-hmm.
And all these thoughts get in the way of our becoming. And so we just cloud who we really are genuinely, which is, you're right, good parents. But like, if we spend so much time focused on what we're not doing right, or what we're so encompassed by our mistakes, or even just like maybe we have changed, so to speak, but our past, we're just like so held up on this, and we already doomed our children because we did
Mm-hmm.
this one thing wrong, or we raised them this one thing right, or we gave them too much TV. I don't know,
Yeah.
you could think of a million
And we
things.
do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Your brain's gonna say you did all these things wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and it's this. I mean, it sometimes seems like never ending, and that's where I love what you're saying, is just tapping into yourself and recognizing and accepting that even if all that was true, like nothing can circumvent around the idea that you inherently are good,
Mm-hmm.
and that you as a parent are exactly, I mean, that's the thought that changed my mom's life, is that she was exactly the parent she was supposed to be for us.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how we turned out,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
was like
Because
that.
we
Yeah,
for
that's
sure,
exactly it.
yeah, and we for sure can't judge whether we're a good or bad mom according to how the kids turn out.
No,
Like we
because
for
I
sure just
mean,
have to drop the war on that terrible thought.
yeah, drop
Terrible
the
thought.
war for sure on that. Drop the war on all, like, yeah, like any of, like, yeah, because you have no control over that, obviously. And it's fascinating because once you drop the control on that, then you actually gain power, and you actually get the thing that you want with your family, which is just, you want a loving, you want to create an environment, that's good for your family, and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. And the best way to do that is just to love people. And the way to love your kids is to stop judging them. The way to love yourself is to stop judging yourself. Like we're literally putting a grade on ourselves. Like good mom means we got an A, which means we're judging ourselves. Like just drop all of that and just know, like, I am good. I don't have to like I'm not taking a test here. If my kids are on screens and I failed, if they're yelling at each other, then I failed. If the house is a mess, then I failed. Like that's just like, let's just not think about it that way.
Right. I mean,
Because
who
it just
grades
keeps us
that
stuck in the
test?
muck. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who makes this test that we're all
Yeah. And
talking
when we're
about?
so hard on ourselves, we're so hard on our kids and we just want to love them. And so we're like trying, like, I want to be a loving parent. Like, I love this kid to death. Why am I so annoyed at him all the time? Because I'm so full of shoulds. Like, he shouldn't be doing that. He shouldn't be doing that. He should be doing this. And it's because we're shoulding ourselves all day too. So if we can just drop the should and just accept what is, like, yes, I am uncomfortable when my kids are pitching a fit and I want them to just stop. Like that is who I am right now. Like it
Yeah.
just is, and it's all good. Um, that wasn't at all what I was gonna say when you were talking. Hold on, keep talking, and I'll get it back.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna add, like, kind of to follow up on your point, like, you are, like, in a way, your first child, and I think if you can think about yourself in that way, then you'll be like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to treat myself.
Mm,
Like, how you treat yourself is a reflection entirely of how you treat your kids,
yeah,
and vice
your
versa. It's just
husband.
like, that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's fascinating because we're with us all the time, yet we're never like cognizant of ourselves. We look at ourselves in the mirror, we're like, oh my gosh, you're here. Like, I forgot, because you're so involved in other people's lives. Makes perfect sense. And so our brain is like, oh, everything we're dealing with ourselves, let's just put it on everybody else, because you're not giving yourself any time of day. And so I don't know. I just like to rethink. It can be helpful to think that you are ultimately like the first child.
Mm-hmm.
And if you only have one child, even if you have no children, like, I mean, you are parenting yourself. Your
Yeah.
brain is a toddler, parenting yourself. Therefore, how you want to treat your kids, that ideal standard you're looking for, first off, there is no ideal.
Mm-hmm.
And second off, if you want to be a good parent, start with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I remembered what I was thinking earlier was this example that I was talking to a mom the other day, and she was like, I came down the stairs and my one kid was on a video game. And I was like, oh, I'm such a terrible mom. Why is my kid on video games? And then she looked at her other son and he was reading a book. And she was like, oh, I'm such a good mom. My kid is reading a book. And then she was like, wait, like I'm the same mom for both of these kids. They have their agency. Like one kid just wanted to play video games and one kid wanted to read a book. Why are we making that mean something about us? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything about us. It just means that they have agency, and we can try to control them. And we only want to control them because we're making it mean something about us. And so if we can drop that connection and just be like, yeah, they have agency. I'm going to teach them what I think is best for their brains to limit their screen time. But like, and as a parent, what kind of controls can I put in? Cause like literally we unplug the internet sometimes. Like there is, ways that you can be quote unquote the parent you want to be, which podcast this morning, do the parent you want to do actually is what we mean by that usually.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, their agency. That's a whole another thing. But point is, let's drop that idea, right? That how the kids turn out determines whether we're a good or bad mom. Because we can hang on to that forever because they're going to be making choices their whole lives that we may or may not agree with.
Right.
And so are we. And God is looking down on us as a perfect parent, letting us make choices. So let's follow his example there.
Totally. I mean, I think that's another thing that really came from my mom's coaching experience, is that I think she held a lot of guilt in that, like, one of my siblings, like, they just never had a good relationship, or it just felt like she was never going to get it right with this person. And that, like, and I think a lot of parents, she especially, like my mom, they could compare themselves. They're like, okay, this relationship with this child is all good, but what happened here? Like, what am I doing wrong? And it's so easy to think like, clearly it must be something with me. Whereas when we're stuck in that kind of thinking, then we're not actually thinking about what can we be doing to help, first off, the relationship, and recognize, like you're saying, relationships are a two-way street. Like, everything you're thinking about the relationship is what matters. And then therefore that reflection is going to help the other person be able to reciprocate things. So my mom really, the thought that changed her life with that is like, yep, she's exactly the way she's supposed to be. Like, I am not supposed to fix her sadness or her anger, or when she is like upset with me, or when she wants to yell at me. Yep, that's supposed to happen. Like, yeah, she's allowed to be angry. Like, obviously, like, I can limit consequences. As your parent, you have a little bit more control of the situation because it's your rules. You get to decide how you're raising this person. So, like, there is that. But everyone has agency when it comes to their emotions. Like, you cannot controlling another human being's emotions is gotta be like the greatest uphill battle that you'll never win.
Yeah.
Just like the biggest tug of war where you're like, you feel like you have so much control. Like, you're doing everything for this person. And I think that was it, is that she just felt like she was doing so much. And one of my siblings was still ungrateful, or just still like, not feeling it. She's like, yeah, not respectful, or, you could do a whole bunch of things with it. Whereas all that was coming from the fact that the sibling had a lot going on with herself, like in her head. And so she was suffering. She was hurting on the inside, and that's all it came down to. And so that kind of, it's just a simple misunderstanding that, like, when our children lash out at us, or, are trying to, are upset, feeling these emotions, it's simply just a reflection on themselves, not on you as a parent, first off. And second off, it's always best to kind of just let them be themselves. And I mean, we can get into that, but that was also the secret for my mom, is that it was letting herself be herself and go after the things that she wanted in her life that made the rest of her family like happy, so to speak.
Yeah. So let's talk more about that, because that's like mind bending for a lot of moms, because we kind of put our lives on hold. We're like, I was a person and now I'm a mom. And it's like, oh, wait. You're still a person also, and you're a mom, but you still matter. Like you were saying, like you're your first child. We can't like neglect that child. And actually, side note, I have the opposite problem lately that I'm working on. It's not really a problem, but this is the thing that I'm thinking a lot about, is I'm so all up in my own business, like because of all this coaching, like I'm always very aware of what my thoughts are, what my feelings are. And I'm like trying to deal with all that like, I don't even like almost even care what they're feeling or thinking or whatever. It's like, so my shift is I'm like trying to care about them more, and just like what you're saying, because it is an uphill battle because we're fighting nature in our brains. So our brains are egocentric. Like that's what the way we're made. We have to take care of number one because that's a survival mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
And so we've actually been cultured out of that to be like, no, you need to serve, forget yourself and serve others and serve others. And you're the mom and you take care of your kids and da, 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 da. But it's just kind of a continuum that I feel like I swing from one end to the other. So it's like you can lose yourself completely in your kids, or I've swung all the way to the other end that I'm like, no, I have to like regulate myself in order to help them. And then I'm just so all up in my own head that I'm like, don't even care what's going on for them. I'm just like, you're bugging me, and like, I'm very aware that I'm very fired up right now. And then I'm like, wait, but just like you were saying in your example, like what's going on for them though, like they're quote unquote pitching a fit for some reason, and even if I don't make it mean something about me, like I've detached that, they still are having a hard time for some reason. Like they're not giving me a hard time. They're having a hard time. And like, what is going on for them? And of course, we do actually need to regulate ourselves in order to be able to care about that. But it's just sort of a balance. It's just a continuum we have to try to stay in the middle of.
Yeah. And I think it's something that we're always going to be kind of going back and forth with, just because it is a fine balance where like, and that's not to say however you're choosing to show up is exactly the way you're supposed to. There's no shame in it.
Yeah.
If we have a desire for something, great, let's go for it. Because I imagine a lot of moms out there have a desire to maybe do something with their lives, like besides being a mom, which is like already it's already amazing and incredible, that amount of dedication and work that goes into that, and taking care of another and raising human beings. Like that's amazing. And if that was everything, that'd be great. But it's when you start feeling that little, like I call it like the itch, like that thing where you're like, I kind of like would like to do something, like maybe you would like to, I don't know. It's even just like the idea of like, you would like to spend some time with some friends and just like have a nice moment with them. Or maybe you'd like to see some family that you haven't seen in a while. Or maybe you want to start something, writing, you want to start a business, you have this idea for something, you want to serve in some kind of respect. I don't know. You just have that little itch. And then oftentimes your brain's just going to come along and say, well, we can't do that, because as a mom, I don't have time for that. Or as a mom, like I can't do that. Just so many different thoughts that can get in the way of our thinking for that. Not to say that it's a bad thing, but recognizing that they're just thoughts. It's not the truth about you. And so what I found, I mean, just in my life is that like, my mom was the best parent she could ever been, but she, like, everything felt better when she decided, hey, I'm going to do this business. And we were all for it. That's the thing. Because a lot of us think, like, I think our kids are going to be like, oh, like, what are you doing? You're changing things. And yeah, like there's going to be discomfort in changing things and going after something that you desire. But we were all for it because we all knew it's what you wanted. And like, and at the same time, she was always in for what we wanted. If I wanted to play the violin, she was like, great, let's do it. Let's get some lessons going. If like my sister wanted to do art, great, let's do it. Let's do some art. Like never really questioning, we don't really have time, or, and obviously, you can go back and forth on it, but it's just like, I don't know, my belief about going after the thing that you desire in your life is like that love that you have for yourself and that care that you have for yourself. If you put effort into that, it's only going to grow and expand to affect everybody in your circle. And so that's why I'm always just a big proponent of like, yeah, go after what you want. Now on the side of like what you're talking about, like where we get maybe so much in our head and so much focus on ourselves, I think that's normal. Mm-hmm. I think it's normal to just have that, and then simply just need to recognize that all we need to do, when our brain is chattering away, because the brain is really the issue in all these scenarios, when it's chatting away, is just, I like to take a breath and be like, okay, brain, like that's great. I'm going to give you some time, in my schedule for that. But right now I got to take care of some kids, or right now I got to do this one thing that I told myself I was going to do that I really want to do. And I don't have time, unfortunately, for me to go back and forth in my head about whether I'm doing it right or not. I just told myself I was going to do it. And so I don't know. I really honestly like to schedule like my time with my brain. Like, okay, like 5 o'clock, like that's when my brain can come back and voice all its complaints. But before then, not allowed. I do it on dates because that's when my brain is always active the most.
Oh, that would be a fun conversation for another time.
Oh, yeah.
Dating. If I hadn't got married and made babies and then found life coaching, I definitely would have been a dating coach because I spent decades doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I have lots of been through. Yeah, anyway. Okay. So a little bit of what I hear you talking about there is proactive versus reactive. And I like to think about parenting that way, is it's like I can proactively know that when they get home from school, like I need a block out time, like nothing on my agenda, like that I'm trying to get done right then. When they get home, they need me. They need to dump their emotions. They need to dump their backpacks. They need to like, I have 2 daughters that get home and they're both trying to talk to me at the same time and tell me every detail about their day, versus my son who won't say anything. And so he doesn't want to say anything. And now when he was the only one in school, it was like, come on, how was your day? I'm like trying to get him to talk, what was so awesome about your day? Like try all these different techniques to get him to talk. And now he doesn't have to because his sisters want to tell me everything. And so he's like, sweet, I'm just going to sneak out and go over there. But then he starts like acting out, and I'm like, clearly stuff happened at school today that like he needs to process. Anyway, I just know like the routine of your day. You kind of know like maybe your babies are getting a little tired, so they're grumpy. So you know that like in the rhythm of the day, like when do they need a nap? When do you need a nap? When do you need a snack? When do they need a snack? Like you just kind of get in a rhythm and do the proactive instead of the reactive. Like, why am I so angry right now? Oh, because I haven't eaten all day. I need some protein or something. And so, yeah. Okay, what else? Tell everybody where they can find you so they can get all the. It's entirely possible that they may even have older kids that need some coaching, right?
Yeah, no. And I love to say my favorite thing is when parents come to me and they're like, hey, I need you to like coach my kid. And I was like, well, like maybe you want some coaching, but I will definitely take you up on that opportunity, because I think every kid does. Every kid needs help just talking through things, processing things. Think that I don't know, everybody has this idea of like, yeah, like I'm fine, or this is how I've always done things. And then they start talking about things or even revealing things that they're ashamed of, and like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I was like, yeah, tell me about it. That's why I keep doing this as a life coach. So you guys can find me. I'm on calebpricecoaching.com, also on Instagram at Caleb the College Coach. I also have a podcast you can look up. It's called Relatable Thoughts. It's for college kids. So basically I coach college students who are in the thick of it when it comes to anxiety, perfectionism, who really want to just figure out what they're doing with their lives and ultimately just want to feel better about themselves. Like, I mean, it's just a hard time for everybody around this stage. Everyone's like, it's the decade of decision. And I'm like, well, okay, once we call it that, like I think everyone just had an anxiety attack. Exactly. Like, okay, wow, way to just put pressure. But really, as we all know, that pressure is coming internally. And so I help people figure that out.
Yeah.
And I love coaching people. It's the best.
Well, I'm just thinking in that phase of decade of decisions, a lot of people just made decisions, including myself. I thought I was going to, according to the culture of our church, even like, and just the culture of society, that like, okay, I finished high school, I'm supposed to go on a mission, go to college, get married, make babies, like that's the plan. And so a lot of people now, like the people that are kind of in this new mom phase, something that happens a lot is that they're like, wait a second, like where was my agency in any of this? Like I just did what I was quote unquote supposed to do, and now I'm like stuck at home changing diapers, doing dishes, like And like I had a life. Like I thought that I was doing so. I was in college. I had like aspirations. I had plans, and then all of a sudden, I'm just like a mom and unfulfilled. And it's like that decade's over. Too bad. This is my life. Like, and so the message is like, there's not a decade of decisions. There's a whole life of decisions. You have
Yeah,
agency still. You can do other things between changing diapers. You can, find fulfillment in changing diapers if you want, or you can start a podcast during nap time. Like you can do whatever you want to do, and
literally.
you don't have to wait until the decade of retirement or whatever.
Right.
The decade of empty nesting is when you start decisions again. Like there's no time. That's the decade of decisions. It's just decisions every single day.
Exactly.
What you want with your life. So
yeah, life does not end when you become a parent, because society and our culture kind of teaches you that, like, well, you made it. And then you're like, but like I have my whole life ahead of you. You're like, yeah, you do. And so, I mean, I just totally agree. Like your life does not end. There's no one way to do things. And so if you feel like you're stuck, you're unfulfilled, like recognize that this is just a mindset. These are just your brain talking to you in these moments, and that it eventually, one, will pass. So it's all temporary. But two is that recognizing that you have a choice in this matter. You always have a choice when it comes to your feelings and your thinking. Yes, we're sometimes just going to have to feel bad.
Yeah.
But that allows us to experience life and then to feel good. And that's, I mean, parenting is all about that. Feeling a lot of bad so you can feel a lot of good in the future. But I mean, my message really is just like, don't forget about yourself and all of it. Like you are there in all of it. There's no need to make you bad. That's totally unnecessary. And it's just extra pain we're putting on top of ourselves. We already got enough of it. Yeah. So please don't forget about yourself and all of it. Because I mean, that's what changed my life. And I'm the child of a life coach. And that's why it changed my life. Not because I just got coaching. I mean, yes, for me, yeah. But because for my family, it's because of her. And because she decided to go all in on herself and not beat herself up anymore. Just be like, yep, I'm a good mom. And we're just going to believe that and have a lot of faith, because that's all we can do. Yeah.
So good. Amen. Hallelujah. Thanks, Caleb. So fun.
Thank you.
Okay. And one of those podcast episodes, I'm on there. So
oh yeah, you can listen to Emily. She's great.
You can hear me again. You just can't get enough of me. All right. Thanks, Caleb.
Bye.
Hey, friend. Thanks for listening. If you want to learn more about how you can believe that you are a good mom, head over to dropthewordlifecoach.com/believe, and you get access to my free pre-recorded masterclass that will teach you all about the hands-on, exactly how to believe that you are a good mom. Start believing right now. Feel the peace, my friend. We got this. You got this. See you there.